Objective and subjective. When considering the concepts of interaction, expression, and perception together as a triple, interaction is immanent, modal, expression is transcendent modal, and perception is omniscient modal. A single comparison as the simplest form of theory objectifies a link between a sameness and difference and a content and context with respect to a given subject. There can be no comparison which does not implicitly imply the concepts of the subjective and objective, a content and a context, and a sameness and a difference. Complex theory consists of many comparisons. The intrinsics of comparison. The 6 concepts of sameness, difference, content, context, objectivity, and subjectivity when taken together as a group. Any comparison will assume a sameness of content or a sameness of context as to be comparison. Also, the concept of comparison will assume a difference of content or a difference of context. The concept of comparison will also implicitly assume the distinction and instantiation of objectivity, what is, and subjectivity, who is. These are the intrinsics of comparison. The concepts of content and context represent more about a way of thinking about interaction, whereas the concepts of sameness and difference are more about interaction itself, objective. So, content and context is subjective, sameness and difference is objective. Or it represents more of a way of thinking about interaction, where the concepts of sameness and difference are more about interaction itself. Okay. The sameness or difference of eventities is itself always an eventity. One which is always more objective than the eventities which are compared. Comparison is an objectification of a sameness and a difference. Comparison is a subjectification of a context and a content. The very event of perception, observation, itself cannot have, both subjective aspects and objective aspects. Each perception and observation and each expression and communication event cannot not create and define both the objective and the subjective. An axiom 3 relation. Everything and every process has both a subjective and an objective aspect. So I misread one of the parentheses up here. I said at the first sentence, the very event of perception, observation, itself cannot not have both subjective aspects and objective aspects. Each perception and observation and each expression and communication event cannot not create and define both the objective and the subjective. Everything has both a subjective and objective aspect. There is no objectivity that does not end in subjectivity. There is no subjectivity that does not end in objectivity. Nothing can be purely objective or subjective. All experiences have both objective and subjective aspects. No experience or expression is completely objective or completely subjective. The concepts of objectivity and subjectivity are defined in terms of the relationship between self and reality, interaction, perception, and expression. The objective is conjugate with the subjective. The being of the objective and the subjective and the nature of the concepts of the objective and subjective experience are distinct, inseparable, and non-interchangeable. The essence of experience has the modality of the immanent, the essence of objectivity has the modality of the omniscient, and the essence of subjectivity has the modality of the transcendent. Objectivity is defined in terms of comparable forms. Subjectivity is defined in terms of non-comparable feelings. The meaning of objectivity has common basis with the meaning of that which is perceived or is perceived, physical content. The meaning of subjectivity has a common basis with the meaning of that which is invisible or is transparent, non-physical context. Objectivity and subjectivity are degrees or metrics, not states of being or condition. Objectivity is not an attribute of any single perception. Objectivity can only be associated with clusters of related perceptions. Perception, observation, and experience refer to a single or simple condition of being without aspect, whereas objectivity can only be considered as an aspect of complexes of many related perceptions. Objectivity is the product of the degree of the intensity of the self-to-world interaction, to the degree of the macroscopic consistency of the self-to-world interaction, and 3, the degree of the microscopic potentiality in the self-to-world interaction.